Many Pakistanis dislike the United States, some for good reason and others for reasons that are not so good. But is it really true that the United States is sending floods and earthquakes across the world and to Pakistan in particular? If it is, then America has a revolutionary new weapon, one that is certainly illegal and must be protested against even more strongly than drone strikes. Now, many people have alleged this, but it made big waves when a Pakistani scientist who is a fellow of the Royal Society wrote an article in the daily newspaper Dawn saying that an experiment in Alaska by the name of HARP was trying to do precisely that. He wrote, "The HARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, is a highly controversial US program which aims at manipulating the ionosphere." The ionosphere, as everyone knows, is a layer of the Earth's atmosphere that is made primarily of atoms which have become charged by the sun's rays striking them. The ionosphere is very interesting to study actually because radio waves which are sent up get reflected back. And so obviously this is very important for radio communication over long distances, and the US Department of Defense is certainly studying this for purposes of missile defense and for perhaps deactivating the defenses of other countries. But does this have anything to do with climate or weather? Some people certainly have alleged this, but the professor, however, says that the program aims to control the weather by manipulating the ions in the atmosphere and thereby control the world. He goes on to write, "Energy directed by powerful lasers can heat up the ionosphere and may control weather, making it a potentially devastating war weapon." We learn from this essay that inexplicably strange things have been happening to weather all over the world, but nowhere is it more strange than in Pakistan, where the mass flooding has confounded scientists. In support of this contention, the professor quotes three persons. They are Professor Michel Chossudovsky, Dr. Nicholas Begich, and Dr. Rosalie Bertel. The professor ends his essay with a question that leaves one deeply fearful. He asks, "Is the HARP then a harmless research tool or a weapon of mass destruction far more lethal than nuclear weapons? We may never know." Actually, we do know. Unless somehow the laws of physics are completely overturned, there is no conceivable way by which a 3.8 megawatt radio transmitter or a 38 megawatt transmitter or a 3,800 megawatt transmitter can change the weather. All one has to do is look at the physics. The energy in a storm comes from the absorption of the sun's rays either on land or on water. This is then stored in the atmosphere, air, sea, water. The amount of energy is truly staggering. This energy is bigger than the energy which is released in 10,000 nuclear weapons of the Hiroshima size exploding. Today, even the most powerful lasers and radio transmitters are incapable of making even a dent upon the atmosphere. In fact, to see the impact of HARP upon weather is just about as difficult as trying to see a candle in broad daylight 20 miles away. As for moving tectonic plates with radio waves, I don't know of an analogy. It's like expecting an ant to carry an elephant on its back. It's simply not possible. But who are the people who claim that the radio waves from HARP can cause weather to change or earthquakes to happen? None of them are seismologists. None of them are climatologists. None of them are scientists of any repute. And in fact, there is no published work in scientific journals that supports the claim. In the essay, President Hugo Chavez is quoted as saying that the earthquake in Haiti was because of manipulations by the United States. Well, he was a very fine man, and personally, I was sorry to see him go, but he was not a scientist, and his statement was political. I'm sure many thoughts must have come to your mind. For example, why is it that the United States has been hit again and again by hurricanes, tornadoes, and storms so severe that hundreds of Americans have been killed and billions of dollars worth of property has been destroyed? If HARP had succeeded or the United States had actually obtained control of the weather, then surely this should not have happened. But we'll let this pass. There's a more important question to ask. When is it that a scientist can be trusted? And how can one know that what is before oneself is real science as opposed to quackery or quack science? There's a very clear answer. If a scientist is working in his or her own field, publishes in journals that are reputable, uses the scientific method and demands proof at every point, then there's not much to fear. On the other hand, if there's a person who has a political agenda or a religious agenda, if what he or she is saying violates common sense, if that person does not respect the scientific method and does not demand proof, then you and I need to be very suspicious.